Hey guys, it's Vol here. This weekend I've been to the Rally Point War Machine and Hordes tournament at Hamilton in New Zealand. It was a 50-point tournament, and you were allowed to bring a maximum of 2 casters. Apparently you're allowed to just bring 1 caster if that's all you owned in terms of models. But of course I took 2 casters, owning several of them. And if you have a look at the video description, first of all, I want to have a talk about the list that I took and why I took the choices and so forth, and just really get that out of the way before I start covering the games and giving you guys a sort of blow-by-blow report of the actual battles themselves. And we're going to start with the Chromac list. Chromac's the cast that I've played the most, I'm most confident with. I have been successful with them. I did win some games with them in the last tournament that I played, and I've expanded on the style of Chromac and really honed it down. The list is a little bit lopsided though. It's very beast heavy. There's not much Fury management at all, and in a previous incarnation of the list I had 2 units of Shifting Stones and a Wilder in there as well. And the way I thought that would work is just to really, keep the Fury very well managed. But as I practiced quite a lot, I got really good at using the Shifting Stones for Serenity. I got really good at sort of committing beasts in such a way that they're either going to be primal, that I'm going to be losing them anyway and not being able to leech the Fury, or I was just sending everything in a massive sort of big attack and just wiping the whole thing out, or you're sending beasts in to do a few things at a time and not having to worry about it. The other thing about the Chromac list is I really wanted to be able to deal with things like, Defender's Sword and Iron Flesh and maybe even Arcane Shield. So that's why I've kept the Pureblood in there. The Lord of the Feast has gone there as well because I like to be able to deal with infantry that have those buffs at a range with Wraithbane. Generally be able to sort of get those kills and leave a model in the opponent's sort of line, tying them up while I wait, for a better position and better opportunity with the rest of my beasts. And in practice, that list was going very, very well. I feel that the weakness of the Chromac list that I've fielded is the stuff like Bane Thrall, tough, like Terminus with 3 big blocks of units, stuff like that. Khador with the iron-fleshed Kayazi Assassins, or maybe Winterguard, still very difficult to deal with despite Wraithbane being available. And even some extreme heavy armor lists. I know I've got 2 Warpwall Stalkers there, but if I don't crack that armor, for example, it's a big wall of Jax or Manowars, for example, or even Xerxes with 2 units of Satratai or something like that. If it's played right, I can sort of mess that up. But still, good list, happy with it, and there are a lot of matchups where it's very easy to win with this Chromac list. Now, what I'll do is go to the next list here, which is Mosar. And I've got to say, up until 3 days before the tournament, I was 99% sure that I was going to be taking E. Kruger. E. Kruger being the better tournament caster on paper, and most consensus, general consensus is that E. Kruger is really the best circle caster out there. The thing is, when I played my practice games with E. Kruger, I was losing often, I was often unsure of what to do, I sort of felt a little bit powerless in some situations, and I wasn't using the feat very well. And whenever I played with Mosar, I was feeling confident, I always knew what to do, I was playing very well with Mosar, and that was really the overriding decision. It wasn't so much about what's actually good on paper, it was what was actually really working for me and my style as a player. So what I did is I switched E. Kruger out of the list, put Mosar back in there. Originally I'd taken away the Druid Overseer for a Blackclad Wayfarer, but I put him back in again because I knew I'd be facing a very competent Legion player. 2 of my big rivals there will be Signar players with I knew they'd have Stormstriders. And the Druid Overseer gives me an extra 1-inch, range for counter magic, and really, at the end of the day, I was using Druids for counter magic the most. But this list, I felt, is well-rounded, it's got everything that Mosar needs, it has performed well in practice, and I felt very confident using it, and I knew that I'd have some situations where I'd be up against P. Danny, and Chromac wouldn't fare so well, but Mosar would be able to sort of hang back a bit, and shut down all of her spells, which Chromac can't always do if she gets an Arc Node very, very close, but outside of Chromac's little Bestial bubble. With Chromac, he can't really cast Bestial first turn, otherwise it takes him too long to get his upkeeps up later. I mean, it doesn't sound like that might be the case on paper, but if you've ever tried casting Bestial on the first turn, and then putting his upkeeps up later while maintaining Bestial, it just doesn't work. until about 3 turns into the game. But that's a look at some of my lists. It'll become a bit more evident as to how these lists fare when you see the reports of my games. Just going to give you a brief slideshow of some of the pictures I took during the tournament that were not of my games, just to give you an overview of who was present there and talk about what lists were there. Unfortunately, there was no Army presentation phase where everybody set up their models to be photographed, so I couldn't take advantage of that, sadly. But let's have a look. This first list is Ian's list. He basically came down with me in the car from Auckland to Hamilton, an hour there and back each morning and evening. I had painted his army for him and played 8 games with it, so I was quite familiar with him as a player, being a rival of mine for nearly 20 years now, and well, not at War Machine, and obviously personally, but Ian decided to go with Saren and with E. Lilith, and he took the exact same list, but the 2 different casters swapped out, and he's basically like double Angelius, double Seraphs, got Typhon, and all of the solos you see displayed at the back there, 2 Forsaken, 2 Spell Shepherd guys, and 1 Spell Martyr and a Feral Geist. So that's what he had. Next image, just going to some of these photos taken during games. Of course, there was one Menoth player who I don't think got past the mid half of the field. I know that he had E Fiora in there somewhere, but I wasn't sure what his other caster was. Looks like his opponent here is basically a Signar player with some jacks. Didn't get a good look at it, but I think he was playing with P Striker. Next image, 2 of the better players at the tournament. We had Chris with his Signar, and he was fielding E. Haley and E. Striker. This particular game, he was facing up against Casey with his Gatorman. He was playing Maylock the Dreadbound and Barnabas, and this game happened to be between E. Striker and Maylock. But both players very good, and I remember this game being fairly late in the tournament after both of these guys had worked their way up to the top of the tables. Next image, a guy with Xerxes and quite a range of beasts and units here. He's taken some Nihilators, which I hadn't seen on the field before, and he's got Tyrant Redeem as well. Nice paint job, very, very crisp and clean, I should say. These models are spread out between the 2 lists that he took. But interestingly, he had 2 lists with Xerxes in them both. He just had taken 2 different versions of the Xerxes list, which I didn't realise was allowed, but apparently you can do that. Otherwise, I might have even tried taking 2 Chromac lists. Anyway, we have another guy here with Mercs. I believe he was using the tournament organizer's army since the TO couldn't actually participate. So lots of Steelhead Halberdiers here and just general assortment of Mercs. I think some riflemen as well. Next image, Kador. We've got, I think he was playing with P. Irisk and Epic Sorsha, if I recall correctly. And he's taken Winter Guard, Great Bears, some of the best jacks. He's got Beast 09, he's got Behemoth and Spriggan. So it looks like quite a powerful list, but I don't think he worked his way up to the top of the field, this particular player. Next image, somebody with Trolls. Didn't really get a good look at them. They weren't really painted that well anyway, so I'm not too sure what he has there. I mean, if anybody in the audience here who's familiar with Trolls will know what these guys are, and if you spot the caster, then yell out. Next image, this is a P Butcher list. It's a tier list. I believe it's a tier 3 list with 3 units of Man of Wars and a couple of jacks. Interestingly, I played a practice game against this list the week before. Didn't face it during the tournament, but I was prepared for it because I played a practice game with it. I actually took Mosar rather than Chromac because I knew that Chromac would just attack, kill a whole bunch of guys, then the remaining third or half of his army that was left alive would feat and just destroy everything I had. Whereas with Mosar, Megalith was able to use his Undergrowth Animus to stop them from advancing, anywhere near me because he had no Pathfinder at all, and I could just pick away at him with Curse of Shadows and spells and blood trackers shooting at him and so forth. So Mosar would surprisingly have been the better choice against this guy had I faced him. Next image, experienced Wellingtonian Crix player, name is Chris. He'd taken this guy is very experienced with Chris. He's played all the casters multitudes of times, so I think he's really sort of kept the game interesting for himself by choosing some different casters that he wouldn't normally play. He's actually gone for P. Gaspy, that's P. Asphyxius, and the Witch Coven, and he's taken a big variety of Crix units, as you guys can see here. So quite an interesting caster choice, or double up, I should say. Next image, we've got a Trolls player. This is Sean from Wellington, who is one of the better players down there, and Mike, another good player from Wellington, ex-Wahamba player. I've shown you many of his armies before on photographs, but this was quite a tense game, Trolls versus Mercenaries. Trolls had Jarl and P. Madrak, and the Mercs had Gorton Durgan and Fiona to choose from. So very rare choice of Fiona there. I hear that she's quite looked down on by many experienced players, but I don't really know. I haven't actually faced her before, so I can't make my own judgment call. Next image, we have Mark with his Menoth. You've seen him in a couple of battle reports with me, just taking Piece of Ares. That was his only caster. But his opponent was a Hamiltonian circle player, playing P. Kaya, would you believe? I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw her there, but she'd taken, the Wartwolf Stalker, the Gnarlhorn, the Gorax, the Gatorman. It was looking good, and he actually did alright. He won a few games. His other caster was Mosar, though. Next photo, we've got another Scorn player. This guy actually took the Scorn caster with the little lanterns. I can't remember whether it was Mordekar or Zal or whatever his name is, but he's there. And I think his alternative was Xerxes. But his opponent's a Crix player whose photos I'll show you more of later on, was Scavarus and other option. Wasn't Venethrax, it was Scavarus and P. Denegra, if I recall correctly, not 100%. Next image, my buddy Josh, who of course you've seen in many of our Monday night game photos with his Signar. He had gone with E-Striker and E-Nemo as per practice games. His opponent was a guy called Piers who plays Trollbloods. Piers basically rang me up 3 days before the event and said he needed a lift down, so I got to know him during the car trip journeys. He's basically a member of the police force, doesn't play very much because he's needed on the weekends, but he's come back and he's been playing Borkar Kegslayer, who I have no idea about, but apparently she's pretty cool, Stumbling Drunk. This game was actually quite ironic because Josh came in and did a power 21 hit on Borkar with E-Striker at one point, but Stumbling Drunk actually saved him by putting him in exactly the right direction 3 inches away and saving his ass from a E-Striker assassination run, which landed the game for the Trolls, which was quite crazy. Next image, this is Mike with his Crix. This player wins all the local tournaments in Wellington, apparently. He's got Epic Gorshade and Epic Denegra with lots of Bane Thralls, lots of solos, and not much of anything else. So this guy's a guy to be feared. Next image, two of the players probably closer to the bottom of the tables, travelling from far and wide. We've got the Khador and Mercs. Unsure what casters were actually used by these guys. Didn't have a close-ish look, but yeah, good to see a little bit of diversity, or some of the stable stuff there too. Next image, there is no next image, sorry. That's it for the overview. So hopefully you guys got an impression of what my casters are, what my strategies are, who else is playing. Stay tuned, I'm going to be posting up 7 battle reports of my own games. Basically, it was 7 games. If you get to game 6 and you're undefeated, you play the next person who's highest on the rankings for the title of the first and second playoff. So it's not as though you can sort of get to the 7th round and then beat somebody and have the standings totally changed. By the time the 6th round comes, the first through to the 4th places are decided. And it's only everybody else who's re-ranked according to the whole field. But you may win the first 6 games straight and then have to play a guy who's won 5, lost 1 in the finals and lose to that person, and that person becomes the tournament champion. So that's the format of it. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you soon with the battle reports.